So example number 2.5. So planar symmetry problem. Again, little hypothetical. An infinite plane carries a uniform surface charge sigma. Is that okay? But still, we have to imagine. So infinite plane, which carries again, it is extending in all direction. Okay, infinite plane, which carries uniform surface charge sigma. Okay, uniform surface charge sigma. What is the electric field? Find electric field due to this one, above, below, whatever. Is that okay? Find electric field due to this one. Yeah. Find electric field due to yeah, again, while saying sometimes it seems, I mean, infinitely charged conducting plane, not like that. Not conducting, infinite plane carries a uniform surface charge, okay? Infinitely charged, not infinitely charged plane, okay? Infinite plane carries a uniform surface charge density sigma, not conducting, okay? We haven't said, again, so in the beginning, we will not talk about whether it is a conductor, insulator or something, okay? We will just talk about charge. Later we shall see how to handle conductors, okay? So now look at here, I have to find electric field due to this one, above, below or whatever, okay? So because of symmetry, again, if you find above, below, again it will be same as above, isn't it? I mean, now look at here. So first you have to argue what is the direction of electric field. So I told these things, am I right? First you have to argue what is the direction of electric field, mod of E. So what is the direction, okay? What is the direction here? Second one is, what is the functionality of this one, isn't it? Now I better to choose coordinate, unless I can't talk about that one, am I right? Functionality. I'll choose this one as y, x, x cap, y cap, z cap. Is that okay? So now look at here. So what is the possible direction of electric field? Why? Symmetry. No. Yeah, you have to argue again. So take any point here. So just above the plane. It is infinite, okay? So again, when you move along this y-axis or x-axis, you will not feel any difference. I think I have taken this one while discussing classical mechanics somewhere. We have taken this one. Just again read. I think in conservation law, in case of classical mechanics, we discuss similar thing. When you move along y-axis, you will not feel any difference. Why? It is infinite in that extent, in this extent. Is that okay? When you move along x-axis, you will not feel any difference. But when you move along z-axis, yeah, now you are moving away from the charge distribution. Is that okay? If electric field is a function of any coordinate, then it should be function of z only. Is that okay? It should never be function of y or x. Why? When you move along y-axis, you will not feel any difference. Is that okay? So now look at here. So what is the direction now? Possible direction along z cap. Am I right? That's what you say. How do you argue? So take a point here. So if I take one elementary charge dq here, there exists another elementary charge dq which cancels out its a horizontal component. Am I right? Are you getting my point? If I take electric field due to two elementary charges symmetrically situated, so they will produce electric field like this. So their vertical component will add up, horizontal component will cancel out. So that's why, again, the same argument can be extended, am I right? Whatever the charge distribution you take, same argument can be extended. That's why electric field should be along z cap. Is that okay? First you have to argue what is the functionality, what is the direction, isn't it? So now you have to create or you have to imagine Gaussian surface, am I right? You have to imagine Gaussian surface. How do you take Gaussian surface now? Yeah, speak out. Gaussian surface should be taken in such a way that electric field should be parallel to the surface area. So throughout the Gaussian surface. So then, so throughout the surface, what you call electric field should be uniform. Am I right? So that's why you have to run Gaussian surface parallel to xy plane. or you have to make constant in Z, isn't it? So earlier also, in case of cylindrical symmetry, we have done similar idea. Remember again, our electric field was a function of so S alone. Am I right? So it was a function of S alone. So that's why our Gaussian surface was a surface with constant S. Am I right? In that curved surface, S was same, isn't it? Distance from the axis was same. So these two are will also contribute, but their flux was 0. Here also the same situation comes. Am I right? Now look at here. You can create a plane. So you can create a surface parallel to XY plane, but you can't close that one, isn't it? Our Gauss law is for closed surface integral. E bar dot dA bar closed surface integral. So am I right? Suppose if I take one surface, Gaussian surface, just above this one, just above this, what you call this plane. Now look at here, I can't close that one, isn't it? Then I have to run other surfaces like this, isn't it? So that I have to take closed surface. But a part of my surface should be parallel to XY plane, so that over this surface, electric field should be constant, and electric field and area vector should be in the same direction. So we have done the similar thing here. We had one more part of the surface which do not satisfy our condition. What is that? Area vector and electric field will not be in the same direction, and throughout this region electric field is changing, remember, but it was not contributing any flux. That's why we were safe here, isn't it? Are you getting my idea? So again, for spherical symmetry it was very different. Am I right? Once you take a sphere, throughout the sphere conditions are same, isn't it? Throughout the spherical surface, electric field is same, magnitude is same, and it is along the same direction of your area vector. But in case of cylindrical symmetry, these two extra surfaces. So in those surfaces, look at here, electric field changes. Okay, again, don't take that one as 100%. What was the statement I have done? You have to take the Gaussian surface in such a way that electric field should be constant throughout the Gaussian surface. Am I right? Now it is not here, but it will not contribute any flux. It will not contribute any surface integral. That's why we were safe. Now again, same thing will happen here. We can run our Gaussian surface like this. We call this one as pillbox. Okay. So maybe the olden age, they used to store this one. I mean, they used this kind of box to store the pills. So now that is that, look at here, this Gaussian surface that runs just above and below the plane. Is that okay? That runs above and below the plane. So symmetrically again. Is that okay? So this is, suppose, let me take epsilon here, let me take epsilon here. Okay, suppose 2 epsilon, or so total is epsilon, whatever you can take. Okay, so what he is taking, again let it be. So not epsilon is again epsilon, delta, everything is used, isn't it? What should I use? Yeah, what should I use? Speak out. Delta, let me take like that. Is that okay? So this width of this surface just above, that is delta, width of the surface just below is delta. So area is A. Okay, area of this surface, that is A. Can you imagine that one? That runs just above and below the plane. Again, that's an imaginary surface, remember. So we are not cutting the plane and we are not doing physically anything here. Is that okay? Gaussian surface is an imaginary surface over which we are going to apply Gauss law to find the electric field. Are you getting my point? So again, so after a long time you may forget this one, remember. So if there is a surface, it may disturb something. No, it's an imaginary surface. Are you getting my point? It's an imaginary surface. So again, you can run the surface just above and below symmetrically like this. Is that okay? So now look at here. Over this surface, above surface, your electric field and area vectors are in the same direction, isn't it? And that surface is parallel to XY plane, and that surface is a surface with constant Z. Z is not changing when you move over that surface, isn't it? So that is at a distance as delta, so along Z axis. Is that okay? So then what would happen? Electric field is uniform. I mean, electric field is constant throughout this one, magnitude. isn't it? And your area vector and electric fields are in the same direction. So now, so again, what about these surfaces? They will, so they will act exactly like this one in our cylindrical symmetry. So now electric field, we already argued it is along z cap, but here in this what you call edge surfaces, so your area vector and electric field both are perpendicular. So that's why it will not contribute any surface integral. So then below surface, that okay, if I take below surface, again, so obviously there exists electric field, am I right? Now look at here, if electric field is along z cap, what is the electric field below? Should be minus z cap, am I right? Because, so this will contribute to minus z cap electric field usually, okay, if you take like that. Below surface, if you take electric field, it is along minus z cap, again, area vector should be outward from the region always. Closer surface, closer pillbox, your area vector should be always outward from the region. Below, your area vector is like this, and your electric field is also in the same direction. Again, same thing will happen. Now, can I just, again, this is equal to Q enclosed by epsilon naught, isn't it? So now, let me just do this one. Now, let me separate this one as, how to take above plane, okay, E bar dot dA bar, above plane, so this one, this area, this planar area, plus edges, this closed surface, I am going to divide that one. Is that okay? I am going to divide that one into above one, below one, and edges. Is that okay? Edges, E bar dot dA bar, plus below plane, E bar dot dA bar, just equal to Q enclosed by epsilon naught. Obviously, this is 0, isn't it? Because in the edge surfaces, your area vector and electric field are perpendicular. That surface integral is 0. So, can I take like this? Now look at here. Here, entire Gaussian surface is not, how to say, entire Gaussian surface is not contributing flux, one thing. Okay, other one is, in entire Gaussian surface, our electric field is not uniform, remember. Is that okay? In the edge surfaces, it may be changing, am I right? So it's a function of z, that's what we have taken. But it was not contributing flux, that's why we were safe. So otherwise we would be in trouble actually. We can't apply that one. Is that clear? So now this part is 0. So electric field above, how do you write? Mod of electric field into, speak out, z cap dot product with dA, mod of dA. Let me write mod of dA, z cap. Can I write like this? Because area vector. So if you take a patch of area, that's also along z cap. Remember. So plus mod of electric field minus z cap below, above, below. So dot product with dA minus z cap. That's equal to Q enclosed by epsilon naught. Can I write like this? I hope you got the idea. Below, electric field will be along minus z cap. Is that okay? And area vector is also minus z cap. Area vector, if this is a closed surface, area vector should be outward from the region always. Okay? So that was the rule. So now, look at here, what is this one? Electric field is constant throughout this surface. Look at here, this is surface of constant z value. If any possible dependency, it should depend on z, isn't it? So electric field is constant throughout this above surface. You can take it outside. So mod of electric field into integral of mod of dA. Am I right? Plus what is this one? Mod of electric field. Again, the same thing will happen. Am I right? So in the surface below the plane, electric field is constant throughout the surface, isn't it? You can take it outside. So then integral of mod of dA, am I right? Minus z cap minus z cap. Now these two are same, isn't it? Magnitudes, these two should be same. Why? So again, so I'm talking about, look at here. So what is that electric field? That electric field on the plane, remember, on this above plane. This is the magnitude of the electric field on the plane. We have to run our Gaussian surface so that our Gaussian surface should pass through the point of interest. This was our point of interest, that's why we run Gaussian surface like that. Is that okay? So this is one point, this is another point. Remember, we are trying to find electric field here or here, whatever. So since these 2 points symmetrically situated, magnitude should be same. These 2 magnitudes should be same. Is that okay? So this is at the same distance. This point is at the same distance as that of this one. Remember, from the plane. So that's why these 2 magnitudes should be same. Again, what are the area? I have taken area as A. Some area A. Is that okay? So that's why. So is equal to. Can you see this one? So now this equal to mod of E. Actually, this was above. Am I right? It was electric field above. It was electric field below. But magnitude is same. Again, you have to argue in each and every case. Why it is same? So again, both of these planes are symmetrically situated. So that's why. Again, so electric field magnitude should be same. Into A plus mod of E into A is equal to Q enclosed by epsilon naught. I can write mod of E into 2A Q enclosed by epsilon naught. What is Q enclosed? Charge enclosed. Now can you just imagine this one? That is on the plane. Is that okay? So this region is bounded by that surface. This region is, I mean, that is very well within the surface. The surface, whatever we have taken, this was our surface. Is that okay? So now, what is the charge on this region now? Charge outside doesn't contribute here. Sigma is the uniform surface charge density. Am I right? So sigma into A. That's it. Is that okay? Q enclosed is equal to sigma into A. What is the area? Area is A again. Am I right? If this is A, this is A, this is A. Below one is A. Is that okay? Sigma into A. So when you substitute, look at here. Ultimately, your answer will be, can I write it here? Electric field magnitude 2A is equal to sigma A by epsilon naught. Yeah, speak out. Any question? No, it doesn't depend on Z. If any Z dependency, it should have come here actually. It is independent of Z. We shall see. Is that okay? So now you can cancel it out. That's equal to sigma by 2 epsilon naught. What is the direction? Z cap. But you have to take care, am I right? Below the plane, it should be minus Z cap. Is that okay? This is above the plane. So Gauss law gives only magnitude. Again, that's what I was stressing. You have to find the direction yourself. Okay? Gauss law gave only magnitude. Is that okay? So this is above the plane. Sigma by 2 epsilon naught Z cap. So now sigma is constant. So electric field is independent of Z. Am I right? We were expecting that it may depend on Z. If any dependency comes, it should depend on Z. But look at here, it is independent of Z. How do you explain it? Yeah. How do you explain it? That means when you move along Z axis, electric field magnitude is not changing. What about our inverse square law? Isn't it? Are you getting my point? When you move along Z axis, you are moving away from the charge distribution. Still electric field is not increasing, not increasing, not decreasing. Can you write one sentence? When we move further and further away from the plane, the reason, okay, I'm just talking about the reason. When we move further and further away from the plane, when we move further and further away from the plane, more and more charges come. More and more charges come. So in our field of view, what do you mean by field of view? Yeah. So wait a second. So okay. Wait a second. Let me just continue this one. Yeah. So what is that one sentence? More and more charges will come into our field of view. What do you mean by that? I mean, when you see this one from some height, what would you see? You will see one circular region. Am I right? Our eyes can see one circular patch of region usually. Is that okay? So I mean, you will feel like it is circular, isn't it? Even though it is infinite, we can't say whether it is circular or not. But when you see that one, the infinite plane, you will feel that it is circular. Am I right? When you move away and away, suppose you are moving above with a helicopter, so then more and more region of the earth will come into your field of view, isn't it? The same thing will happen when you move away. Again, you are moving away from the charges, that's okay. But more and more charges are coming into play. I mean, more and more charges are going to, they will come into your field of view. So just like when you move away, when you move above the earth, so more and more earth region, so you can see, isn't it? Are you getting my point? So at some height, suppose you can't see some point, that means there will be no effect due to that charge. So suppose imagine like that. When you move away, so those charges are going to affect those points. Is that okay? So that's why when you move away, more charges are going to play the role, but you are moving away from the charge distribution. Both of them will compensate with each other. So that electric field is almost uniform. Is that okay? So now, when we apply this one, we can't have infinite plane, am I right? If suppose plane is 1 square foot and you are at a 1 centimeter distance from that one, then you can imagine. Are you getting my point? You can take the just field like this. Are you getting my point? In practical situation, we will never have infinite plane, isn't it? One square foot plane which is uniformly charged, you are at 1 centimeter above that one, then it's okay. You can just have this one. So that's what we do in any capacitor. We are going to apply this formula. Is that okay? Because plates are very close to each other, so that nearby that one. So we can apply this formula. Okay. So his question is, we have to put some n cap here. Okay, I have taken some coordinate system, that's why I put z cap. Okay, if you are not taking any coordinate system, then you have to put E above is equal to sigma by 2 epsilon naught n cap. This is away from the plane. Yeah, or you have to write like this. Electric field is like this, isn't it? Here I have taken coordinate system to explain. That's why I put z cap. According to my coordinate system, that's correct. Okay. In the book, what he has taken n cap here. What is n cap? You better to say away from the plane. Either above or below, am I right? If I take coordinate system, I would be in trouble. I have to put plus z cap minus z cap below. Is that okay? Generally, if you are not taking any coordinate systems of just infinite plane, okay, with uniformly charged. So above and below, your electric field is sigma by 2 epsilon naught n cap. What is n cap? Unit vector away from the plane. Can I take like that? Unit vector away from the plane. It doesn't matter. You should not be that sensitive with those symbols or those situations. Okay, you should be able to apply the same situation anywhere. Are you getting my idea? Here I have taken z cap, but you should not again remember always z cap. Is that okay? So I mean, in book he has given like that. Electric field is equal to sigma by 2 epsilon naught n cap, where n cap is a unit vector pointing away from the surface, away from the plane. That's the best idea, am I right? So above, suppose electric field, that will be in this direction. Below, it will be in this direction. Okay, you got to generalize that unit vector. Yeah. So again, why that electric field is constant? Because when you move away from the plane, more and more charges will come into your field of view. So that's why again you are moving away. So electric field should decrease, but more charges are going to play the role. Electric field should increase. They will compensate with each other so that electric field is constant. Okay. Yeah. What's the question? How to say? Again, that's what I was trying to argue actually. Okay. So now actually, suppose you are on the earth. You are on the earth. So now you can, so when you see that one, you can see only some field of view, am I right? In that field of view, suppose, so standing here, I can see that railway track, so those building like that, am I right? So now if I move away, I can see more and more places, isn't it, on the earth. The same thing will happen here also. So even though suppose there are no buildings, so nothing, no hills or something, nothing. So you can see only something, am I right, from that field of view. From that point, you can see only something. I mean, only those will, only those charges, suppose if you are very near, only some charges are going to, if there is no sharp boundary actually. There is no sharp boundary of this one, field of view. That you can't define sharp boundary. So, but some charges in the field of that one, so they are going to act actually. So, charges very far away, they are not going to, contribute much here. So, when you move away and away, again, so again, more and more charges are going to play the role. Is that okay? When you are very close to that one, you can't see entire plane, am I right? Or you can't see much distance. So that's how it's going to play the role. When you move away, more number of charges are going to come into field of view. Okay, just think over it. So yeah, so it is little difficult to argue. Wait a second. Here, yeah, it's a good question. You are taking other charge nearby that one, isn't it? Then again, if it is a conducting plane or something, it may affect something. Okay, if it is an insulator which is charged, insulator when it is charged, we shall discuss that one further. Okay, insulator when it is charged, our charges are isolated. Those charges are not affected by placing any one charge. Is that okay? Here our aim is to find electric field due to charge distribution, okay, without talking about whether it is a conductor or insulator, okay. So next idea is, so once you bring a test charge, so multiply that test charge with the electric field, you will get a force on it.
So nearer to the infinite or plane and above some long distance from the plane, force is same?
Yeah, obviously. Why electric field is same? Is that okay? Yeah.
Field of view explanation is our perspective. Closer to the plane, and very small. Distance of the charge, consider only one charge, the distance of that point from that charge will be
Small.
so electric field should be more.
Hmm.
So as the distance increases, the contribution of each of that charge will go on decreasing.
Yeah, that's correct. Whatever you are saying, when you move away, you are moving away from all charges, isn't it? Entire distribution.
As we move away from all the charges. So all the contributions should be.
So what I am saying is, some charges will not, how to say, wait a second, let me argue. Suppose you have a charge here and here, okay. So suppose I have a point just above that one, they will contribute electric field like this actually, isn't it? Their effect almost cancelled out, isn't it? They are not giving much vertical component. Are you getting my point? Again, take the same line. So go here. Look at here. They are giving much vertical component. Yeah, this is the best argument. Okay, rather than earlier one. Am I right? We usually stuck over there. That field of view is according to us. Am I right? So according to distance from the charge, again it is decreasing. Are you getting my point? That's a good question. Again, whatever you take, yeah, we are talking about field of view, but when you move away, definitely you are moving away from all charges. Am I right? So that's why, again, that field of view concept is needed. Is that okay? Field of view concept is needed. Now look at here. When you are here, these charges, they are cancelling out their effects. Almost. Can I say like that? So when you are here, these charges are giving their effect compared to this one. So that's why when you, again, I think in that sense, he might have said, when you move away, more and more charges are going to play the role. Is that okay? That's the best explanation. I'm not getting the question. Quickly. How field lines will come out of the charge plane? Yeah, once I got this one, why can't I draw electric field like this? They should be uniform. Strength should not increase. I can draw. So below like this. Why can't I draw? Okay, I can draw that one. Yeah, they should be vertically straight. Okay, you can draw that one, but while drawing, take care, you should not increase your flux when you move away, because the strength is same. Isn't it? Number of field lines per unit area was talking about strength of the field, isn't it? So we have taken that idea. That flux should not increase. If flux increases in between, then there should be charge distribution. There will be divergence. Isn't it? Divergence should be 0, okay? And that is uniform. You can just draw that. Any questions? Yeah, again. So let me finish out. So my last argument was why it is constant, isn't it? Last argument was, look at here. Suppose this is a plane. You are very close to the plane. Suppose let me take these two charges, dq, small charges, okay? dq and dq here. Okay, for this point, these two charges will produce dE and dE like this, whose vertical component is very small. Is that okay? Horizontal component almost cancelling out, isn't it? But if you take same point here, somewhere here, again same two charges that may be little far away compared to this distance. This distance may be more, but look at here. So their vertical component are little more now. Am I right? And vertical components are getting added, remember. So that's why when you move away, look at here, these two are making more effect, isn't it? Now for this distance, you may neglect these two charges. You may take only one circular patch of area, isn't it? You can just neglect all charges. Again, that's not sharply defined. Is that okay? So again, when you move above, so that region of interest, I mean that region that is going to play the role, the region of charges that's going to give what you call dominant vertical component, that will increase, obviously. That you can see here. Okay, that's the best argument. So that's why when you move away the plane, so I mean charges very far away, they start contributing. You got to say like that, isn't it? They start contributing and they will start giving a non-zero vertical component. So that again you are moving away. That's correct. These distances, individual distances are increasing. You are moving away. So, but because of that fact that vertical components are increasing, again because of that fact, it increases. One factor will try to decrease, other factor will try to increase, so that will compensate. Okay. So try to argue in this way. Yeah, speak out. Area? No, it is infinite plane. I said there is no sharp boundary here. Isn't it? You can't define, outside this region, charges will not contribute. You can't define that region properly. Is that okay? It's just an argument. Yeah, that question. Yeah, if there is finite plane, definitely there will be Z dependence. Okay, definitely it will be depending on Z. But again, that's what I said. For a finite plane, it may be little difficult to find that one. You can't apply Gauss law for a finite plane. Finite plane is not a planar symmetry at all. Is it okay? Suppose if I take a finite plane like this, okay. So now look at here. At some point here, you may get electric field somewhere in this direction. You will not electric field away from the plane always. Somewhere exactly at the above, you may get electric field away from the plane, isn't it? In the other region, you will get electric field in the inclined manner. But it is an infinite plane imagination. Wherever you go, electric field is away from the plane. That we can argue like that. Am I right? Are you getting my point? Wherever you go, you can say there are plane in all directions, infinite extent. And you can say electric field is away from that one. But you can't argue the same thing for finite plane. That's why for a finite plane, we can't use Gauss law. Gauss law is true, but we can't use Gauss law to find the electric field. Is that clear? Yeah. Yeah, so one more question over there. Again, now you can try problem number 2.17, but it is infinite slab. Don't see the solution manual, try it yourself. Okay, 2.17. Again, you need all 3D imagination, okay, to solve all of these problems. I don't know whether you got that one or not. I was running my Gaussian surface above and below. Is it okay? This part was above, other part, whatever I have shown in the dotted line, that was below. Suppose if you have two boxes, you are just joining that one. I should not take those things because sometimes you may imagine there exists a plane like that. Are you getting my point? That's a mental construction, remember. Are you getting my point? So on which you are going to apply Gauss law and you are going to find the electric field, okay? There will be no existence of that one, the real existence of that surface. 2.17, yeah.
Can we make a different surface for which E and A vectors are in the same direction in case of connection?
Very difficult. Good question. Are you getting my point? We have a finite plane. I said we can't apply Gauss law. So earlier I told you can make use of Gauss law if you consider a Gaussian surface on which electric field is constant, isn't it? Electric field is constant. So I mean magnitude of the electric field is constant and electric field and area vector directions are same. I think that surface would be very difficult to integrate, isn't it? Here whatever surface integral we have done, area of the surface, that was also very simple here. That's a good idea, but again we need to do some computation. I get my point. To find the surface over which electric field is uniform, and that is never be plane here. So it will never be a plane here. Yeah, then better to find electric field using our Coulomb's law. I mean, if our Gauss law is getting lengthy, then better to go for Coulomb's law. Again, our ultimate aim was to find electric field. Okay, but that's a good idea. Are you getting my point? So even though in this case, there should be some plane, what he is saying is, there should be some plane over which, I mean, we can apply Gauss law to find electric field. I mean, over which, so Gauss law means integral of E bar dot dA bar, am I right? Over which electric field is, my magnitude is constant and electric field and dA vector should be in the same direction. There may be that kind of surface but that surface is not easy surface to integrate or to find the area like that, okay? So that's too difficult. So rather than, again, we can, again, if that is getting lengthy, again, this whole thing is to make that one easy, am I right? So to avoid those Coulomb's law integral, okay? Yeah, but good idea. Yeah. So that's why, yeah, you have to think like that. You have to think like that. How to run your surface so that over the surface electric field is uniform. So in this case, that would be very difficult. That's why I just leave it. But in this case, you can do. But look at here. So over entire surface, electric field is not uniform. Have you seen that edges? Along the edges, electric field may be, again, at the end we got it is independent of Z. Now you know that. Is that okay? But before, we were thinking that it was depending on Z, am I right? Vertical axis. So then along the edges, electric field was changing, but those edges were not going to play the role in this surface integral. That's why we were saying. Okay, in case of cylindrical symmetry, same thing happened. But spherical symmetry problem was very different. So throughout surface, entire closed surface, our electric field was uniform. Electric field is same direction as that of dA. That was, 100% one. Okay. So, but other two, we will have a surface. Part of our surface will contain electric field which is non-uniform, but electric field will be perpendicular to area. Okay. In this case, edges. So, in case of cylindrical symmetry problem, again edges. Just think over it. So, let me do one more problem here, then we shall close. Any questions? Yeah. Can you read out?
Actually, we explore Gauss law only three coordinates which we are comfortable with. There are many other coordinate systems called as
Yeah. Now again, we are exploring only three again, planar symmetry, usually that's Cartesian. So cylindrical symmetry, that's called as cylindrical coordinate. Spherical symmetry, spherical polar coordinate. We haven't explored more number of coordinate system, curvilinear coordinate system. We call them like that, curvilinear coordinate system. Maybe, so in some coordinate system that you have to, you have to prepare those kind of coordinate systems so that you can apply the whole Gauss law in a very easy manner. I told it's very difficult to find area, am I right? Area and difficult to do that surface integral. Maybe in that coordinate system, that surface integral may be easy, am I right? Surface integral was very difficult. I mean, if you take cylindrical symmetry, if you try to do the surface integral in Cartesian coordinate, it would be very difficult, isn't it? Again, so in case of cylindrical symmetry, cylindrical coordinate was helping like that. So if suppose Gaussian surface was very weird kind of shape, there may be some coordinate system that we can design. So in that coordinate system, that may be easy. Just like something which is difficult in Cartesian, that will become easy in polar coordinate, am I right? So that kind of thing can happen. Yeah. So that's also a good idea. Yeah. Next one. Yeah. So depending upon, yeah, again. But here, again, we are restricting ourselves to only three coordinate system. Okay. Yeah, we were talking about this coordinate system somewhere else. Do you remember? Parabolic coordinate system. Where? In classical mechanics somewhere. Where we were talking about this one? Somewhere we talked about that one. Am I right? Parabolic coordinate system. Okay. Just search parabolic coordinate system. Okay. There exists coordinate system like that. It is used to solve some problem in classical mechanics. I just forgot that one. Bead sliding on a ring? No. I think for elliptic orbit. For elliptic orbit. Yeah. In classical mechanics, for elliptic orbit, we said degree of freedom equal to 1. Am I right? Do you remember? We got a problem. Yeah. So see this one. You have an elliptic orbit. Okay. I mean particle of mass m which is moving exactly on a ellipse. Very well defined ellipse. Major axis, minor axis. Now what is the degree of freedom? You may say 2. Why? It is moving in a plane. Suppose if it is moving on a circle, then what would you say? What is the degree of freedom? What is the degree of freedom? Now you have a coordinate system to transform, isn't it? Plane polar coordinate. Are you getting my idea? So actually, both x and y are needed, am I right, in Cartesian. But Cartesian is not generalized coordinate. Why? So x and y are related now, isn't it? Suppose this is a, x equal to a cos theta, y equal to a sin theta. X and y are related, they are not independent, am I right? Now we are going to go for plane polar coordinate. In plane polar coordinate, r equal to a, which is a constant, only theta is variable, only one generalized coordinate, that's why only one degree of freedom. That's how we eliminate it. Am I right? But what will you write here? What is the parametric equation of this? We call this one as parametric equation. Am I right? What is the parametric equation of ellipse? X equal to a cos theta, y equal to b sin theta. Isn't it? Now again x and y are related, remember. But you can't go for plane polar coordinate. If you go for plane polar coordinate, both r and theta, both are variable. Is that okay? Then you have to design a new coordinate. I think they called it one as parabolic coordinate system, where you can eliminate one of the variable. Okay, only one, using only one variable, you can explain everything. Or even plane polar coordinate cannot explain that. But still degree of freedom equal to 1. If particle moves on a very well-defined path, degree of freedom is equal to 1. So even though that path may be helix, helix means 3 dimensional, or spiral, you are going to make the spiral binding, am I right? Suppose particle is moving on that spiral. Okay, you can write equation of spiral. You can go for some coordinate system so that you can eliminate other dependency, and only one variable will exist. The same thing will happen in case of ellipse. Elliptic motion. That was the best example. Okay. I mean, what I am talking about is, in some coordinate system, you can. Coordinate system can be chosen so that in that coordinate system, problem will be easy. Is that okay? So again, try to just imagine how to do that volume. Spherical surface integral using Cartesian coordinate. Any idea? Now you can't even think of it now, isn't it? Whenever spherical surface comes, I went to spherical polar coordinate. I just sort it out, isn't it? How to choose your dA vector direction? dA vector direction continuously changes. Am I right? You have to write it in terms of r cap. R cap, isn't it? You have to define that r cap in terms of, again, xx cap, yy cap, zz cap. That's too difficult. So we can't even imagine doing that kind of integral in that format. Again, extend that idea, extend this whole idea. Right now we know only 4 coordinate system. Plane polar is a special case. What is that? Cartesian, spherical polar, cylindrical. Plane polar is a special case. Now suppose if you are getting some weird surface, there may exist some coordinate system where we can do the problem easily. Surface integral. Okay? Yeah, good idea. So now let me do one problem and we shall close here. Again, read each and every sentence from Griffiths, okay? This one. X equal to, that's also a work, that may also work, because when you square and add, it may give 1 or something. But that will not eliminate that one. Which coordinate you choose in case of elliptic motion? We don't have handful of coordinate, which is discussed already. We discuss only Cartesian, spherical polar and cylindrical. That's it. And plane polar was a special case. Okay? Yeah. Okay. In general relativity, we need that kind of system. But again, that will become 4 dimensional. I am talking about only within 3 dimensions. Within 3 dimensions, very pure non-relativistic problems. Okay? Yeah. Our canonical transformation was a kind of transformation actually. Where we eliminated coordinate. Do you remember? Yeah. Now let me do problem number 2.15. 2.15. So I hope you can do our earlier problem. We have a charge Q which is uniformly distributed. Find the electric field inside that one. Wait a second. Before getting into that one, let me design some more questions. Okay. I have a uniformly charged solid sphere of radius capital R. Uniformly charged solid sphere of radius capital R. What is the electric field outside we have done in the morning? Am I right? What is the electric field inside? Now I have uniformly charged spherical shell of total charge Q. No charge inside. Okay? Total charge Q. What is the electric field outside? What is the electric field inside? What is the electric field inside? Why? Yeah, inside Gaussian surface will have again shell, okay? Solid sphere. In case of shell, if you run your Gaussian surface inside, what would happen? It contains no charges inside it. Your right hand side was 0 and magnitude of the electric field will come out. Are you getting my point? When you apply this one, E bar dot dA bar is equal to Q enclosed by epsilon naught. Because of symmetry, it will come out again. So this part is 0. There is no charge enclosed. That's why magnitude equal to 0. Electric field inside that one is 0. Even though it is closer to some charges away from some other charges, you may think like that, isn't it? You may think electric field at the middle is 0, isn't it? That's what you feel. It's not like that. Think over it again. Okay, when you are nearby any of this surface, yeah, these are very near. Again, these are very far, but there are a lot of charges here. Somehow it will cancel out their effect. Okay, even though if we use that Coulomb's law, you will get 0. Are you getting my point? So shell, okay, shell which contains uniform surface charge over the surface. Outside, again same as this one, isn't it? Both are same. Why? Outside Gaussian surface only cares about what is the net charge inside. If net charge is, suppose those Q charges, whether they are uniformly distributed or they are on the surface, it doesn't matter for the point outside. Okay. For point inside, now look at here, Q is uniformly distributed. Suppose if you take Gaussian surface, now there are charges inside because I said it's a solid sphere. So Q is uniformly distributed throughout the region of the sphere, okay, throughout the volume of the sphere. So then there will be charges inside. You have to find what is the charge here. Now can you, if total charge is Q, can you say what is the fraction of the charge here enclosed by this Gaussian surface of radius R? No, how do you start? First define rho. Rho should be uniform. Why? This is uniformly distributed. That's that one. Q by 4 by 3 pi r cube. Am I right? So now what is the charge enclosed Q enclosed? That's equal to rho is uniform again into volume 4 by 3 pi small r cube. When it is uniform, we can do like that. If it is non-uniform, you have to go for integral. Are you getting my point? Since it is uniform, this will allow, isn't it? Any fraction of that region you can take and you can use the density. Am I right? If the density is a function of something, some coordinate, then you have to go for integral. Okay? So that will be Q by 4 by 3 pi r cube, 4 by 3 pi r cube. Look at here. Q r cube by r cube. Is that okay? Q enclosed. Only for outside points. No, here you will get, I think, electric field that is proportional to r vector, something into r cap. You will get like this. Do that problem. Yeah. Outside find electric field will be like this for both of these two. 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by r square r cap. Yeah, exactly same electric field you will get that one. Even for shell also you can interpret like this. So for outside points, so it will look like, I mean, this is similar to, I mean, electric field will be same if all charges concentrated at the center. Okay. So same thing will happen. I mean, outside, so electric field is same here as well as here, both solid sphere as well as shell. But inside, here it is 0. So here it is non-zero. Okay. and it will be proportional to r actually. Okay, it will be proportional to r. Find that one. Let me interpret later. Okay, later let me take that problem. Now let me do 2.15 because it will give lot of insight towards this Gauss law. I have a thick spherical shell. Thick spherical shell means it contains inner radius as well as outer radius. Okay, it contains inner radius as well as outer radius. It contains inner radius and outer radius. Only in this region I have a charge, and that charge density is also not uniform. That rho is equal to, can I write like this, rho is equal to k by r square when r is between a to b. R is between a to b. Only this region contains charges, okay? Only this region. This is the origin. So when r is between a to b, okay, radial distance is between a to b, we have a charge density. The charge density varies like k by r square. Is that okay? Now you have to find electric field in all three regions. All three regions means inside the inner one, in between, and outside the one. How do you start? Inside one. Again, spherical symmetry. Okay, I am not going to argue again electric field dependency direction. Okay, so all spherical symmetry problems are same. If you take any inside point, if you run a Gaussian surface like this, there is no charge enclosed by that one. Am I right? So let me take first region, second region, third region. First region, E bar dot dA bar is equal to Q enclosed by epsilon naught. Am I right? Magnitude of electric field will come out, integral of dA bar. If electric field exists, it should be constant throughout that Gaussian surface. Am I right? Is equal to 0. This cannot be 0. That should be 0. This cannot be 0. That's why electric field equal to 0 in the first region. In the first region. Can I say like this? Electric field vector is equal to null vector. First region. So second region. So if you take any point in the second region, look at here, you have to take again Gaussian surface. Gaussian surface should pass through our point of interest, remember. Okay? And it is at a distance r from the origin. We shall imagine like that. Okay? So now for that second surface, if I apply again Gauss law, E bar dot dA bar is equal to Q enclosed by epsilon naught. Wait a second. Now let me apply. Let me not go to coordinate geometry for this part. I explained in the morning at the end. Okay? What I do here is I am going to argue, yeah, this is my Gaussian surface. Throughout that surface, electric field and dA vector, which are in the same direction, and electric field is constant throughout the surface. Okay? Can I write like this? Mod of E, mod of dA, cos 0. Isn't it? Wherever you take in the Gaussian surface, your dA vector and your electric field, both are in the same direction. So that's why can I write like this? Is equal to Q enclosed by epsilon naught. We shall see what is Q enclosed. The electric field is same throughout the surface. Why? Because of spherical symmetry. Am I right? So when you move over the surface, electric field should not change, magnitude should not change. You can take this outside the integral of mod dA is equal to Q enclosed by epsilon naught. I can write, look at here, I told in the morning, this part will be same for spherical symmetry. This whole part, even if you go for coordinate geometry, if you write dA vector, if you integrate theta phi like that, you will get this part same. Okay, only this part will be different for different problem. Observe that one. What is this one now? 4 phi r square. That is surface area. This part will be same. Again, this part will be same for all cylindrical symmetry problem. All cylindrical symmetry problem. Is that okay? This part. So that will be, I think, 2 pi s into L like that. That was the total surface area, total curved surface area of our cylinder, isn't it? That part will be same. Just observe that one. and try to write this part directly later after some practice. Okay, so this is equal to q enclosed by epsilon naught. What is q enclosed? Now be careful. What is the charge enclosed? Only this region contains charges. Are you getting my point? Mark out them and integrate only in that region. Even though this function will not automatically become 0 outside this region, remember. Are you getting my point? This function, actually you have to write this one like this. You have to actually, if you want to write functionality, you have to write like this. K by r square. R or r square? R square. You better write like this. Isn't it? Otherwise, you may do the mistake while doing the integration, isn't it? That charges exist only within that thick region with inner radius A, outer radius P, remember. But they will simply write K by R square, R will run from like that. So that's why, while talking about, this is my Gaussian surface, while talking about charges enclosed by the surface, only I have to integrate through this region, this function, volume integrate that one, rho d tau, only within this region, your R should run from A to R. Is that okay? So theta and phi as earlier, because you have to go through all spherical region. Okay? So that's why this will become K by R square dr sin theta d theta d phi. Okay? So K outside 1 by R square dr, R runs from A to R. So integral of sin theta d theta d phi, that will be 4 phi. Okay, because there is no theta functionality introduced by rho, am I right? That's why you don't have to touch that. So K into R minus A, 4 phi. Now equate these two, find that. Electric field in the second region, (4 phi r square) is equal to K R minus A, 4 phi divided by epsilon naught, 4 phi. Electric field is equal to K by epsilon naught, R minus A divided by R square. That was the problem. One more, outside, third region. In the third region, everything else is same, only this integral is different. Am I right? You have to integrate from, because when you take Gaussian surface in the third region, yeah, look at here, this whole region is going to play the role. Then you have to volume integrate this one from this off, so that R should run from A to B. So the only thing, can I write directly? What is the difference? In place of R minus A, you will get B minus A. That's it. In the third region, do it yourself. K by epsilon naught, B minus A divided by R square, R k. And do one more problem on similar problem on cylindrical symmetry. You better to follow coordinate geometry, okay? Even though charge is uniform, do like this. You will never do the mistake. Are you getting my point? When charge is uniform, you don't have to do this one. You can just use the ratio to find the total charge inside. Am I right? So, but you better, if it is constant, it will come out. Why would you worry? It will take care. Okay? So, practice in coordinate geometry. That's the best idea. Yeah. What is the best idea? Any question? Smaller.
Is it considered enclosed or not?
Yeah. On the surface, am I right? No, you are worried too much about mathematics. That's why you ask this question. Is that okay? In mathematics, that kind of problem will come actually, isn't it? Are you getting his question? It's a kind of limiting case. I don't know how to make that mathematical statement. His question is whether whether we have taken charges on the Gaussian surface or not. What would you answer? We integrated up to Gaussian surface, not outside. You can't say on or within. We integrated up to this one. What would you say up to? On or within? It's a kind of limiting value.
If we consider that on the surface it won't be the enclosed.
Yeah, that's correct. Then they should be very well within that one. Am I right? Charges very well within that one. So take that surface as infinitely thin. Is that okay? But that's imaginary surface, okay? Don't do that mistake. I mean, there will be some surface that may introduce something or something, okay? That's imaginary surface. We use that one to find the electric field. Is that okay? Yeah, speak out. Yeah, question? Yeah, now I think you can do all problems outside Gauss law. Okay? Again, if you have any question, let me solve it tomorrow evening. Let me proceed in the theory. Okay? Yeah. No, there are not much problem on Gauss law outside this one. That's why he has given list of problem just after Gauss law. Outside he hasn't given any Gauss law question. Just solve all of them. Okay.
R equal to x into x cap.
Okay. He was asking some question, isn't it? In Facebook. Yeah. Again, wait a second. First, my question is, how did we show r del dot r k by r square is equal to 0 using Cartesian form? Then? No, how Cartesian coordinate, I'm saying. So, how we have written? That is, again, we have written r vector by r cube, am I right? We written like that, then x cap plus y cap plus z cap divided by x square plus y square plus z square whole 4 3 by 2. Isn't it? Then what we have done? Dou vx by dou x plus dou vy by dou y plus dou vz by. How it gives 0? That's what. You will get total 6 terms. Total 6 terms. That's correct. Let me explain. So I have similar question. Let me ask later somewhere. Okay. After introducing potential concept, let me ask similar question. Yeah, it will be 0. Am I right? Even Cartesian coordinate also it is 0. But that better. Don't go for Cartesian coordinate. Okay. You have a tool in spherical polar coordinate where it is very easy. Are you getting my point? Yeah. So it is 0 except at r equal to 0. except at r equal to 0. We better write like that. Am I right? So he's saying del dot x cap by x square, isn't it? A point on x-axis. Let me give some idea. I think later we may get some more idea. He's talking about point on x-axis. Am I right? Isn't it? Now it will be non-zero. It's a three-dimensional differentiation, not one-dimensional. How to say? Same problem comes somewhere, okay? There I think I can explain. If you write in Cartesian coordinate, then only you will get problem. If you write in spherical polar coordinate, obviously you will get 0. Then somewhere something is missing, am I right? What I'm feeling is this is a three-dimensional derivative. While taking that derivative, you have to take small region actually. Wherever you define derivative, you will take small region unless you can't define that one, isn't it? df by dx, isn't it? You need dx, df to take the ratio. So here also you have to take small region. What you are thinking is you are thinking only about x-axis. Suppose this is x-axis. You are thinking only about x-axis. You are talking only about this x distance, isn't it? In that one, you are talking about dou vx by dou x. Am I right? It's a kind of dvx by dx. You are moving only along x-axis. That's what I'm saying. That's not in 3 dimension. Whatever the differentiation you have done, that's not in 3 dimension. That's what I feel.
There also should be a market. In spherical coordinate, only a market.
No, I'm saying it contains, okay, you are saying only along r cap.
It's also not a region.
But that is 3 dimension. That is arbitrary direction actually. That is outward direction. Correct. Are you getting my idea here? You are moving only in one direction, but you have to take I can't explain completely. We define this one as volume density. Do you remember? Volume density of outward flux. Then you have to take one infinitely small volume to define this whole thing. Remember? How did you define density? Any density, mass density. dm by d2. Am I right? Small mass by small volume. You need that one, that small volume to define this one. Similarly, you need small region to define this one. But while doing this one, you are thinking only about x-axis. You are moving only about x-axis. So that is the point that I am trying to make. But other part exists, am I right? Other part exists. I mean, but that part is 0. In Cartesian coordinate. Why it failed to give 0? Isn't it? Cartesian. Why Cartesian coordinate failed to give 0? Zero. Then where we did the mistake? He's saying, so take in Cartesian coordinate, at the end substitute y equal to 0, z equal to 0. Then you will get 0. 0, z equal to 0. So that's what I'm saying. When you do that one, you are moving only along x-axis. You are taking derivative. In that derivative, you are not talking about 3-dimensional derivative. That's not a 3D derivative. That's what I'm saying. It's a kind of 3D derivative actually. Yeah. Nyargo. No, in Cartesian, if you want to solve that one in Cartesian, so he is talking about, I am placing charge q here, you are finding divergence of the vector field at this point. In Cartesian coordinate, we can write that one. But what I'm saying is that's not 3D derivative, that's what I'm saying. And as he says, if you proceed with the r cap by r square, even in Cartesian coordinate, at the end, if you put y equal to 0, z equal to 0, you will get 0. How that happens? Yeah, anyway, we shall discuss later, okay? Yeah, we're running out of time. Think over it. Modulus, where we put the modulus? No, whatever somewhere we are missing something, we can't. We have to talk about one region, 3D region here. That's what I'm saying. Is that okay? So, yeah, so as he said, do that one, okay? Del dot r vector by r cube, write that one in Cartesian coordinate and do that one and substitute and check it out, okay? Then it should give 0. That's a good idea to show that one. But what we are missing here, that's the problem, isn't it? Yeah, let me think over it, okay? Yeah, I shall see tomorrow.